Hi there, and welcome to this edition of the Press Police. I'm Mike Collins, coming to you from New Jersey, and joining us now from Oregon is Ryan Williams, our media critic and NYU graduate student of journalism. Ryan, how are you doing?
Just fine, thank you.
Okay, well, we're going to start off today by talking about the oil spill, and it's been the top story in the media, rightfully so, as it nears its 60th day of leaking into the Gulf of Mexico. With all the people talking about it, there's been tons of people being reactionaries, no less than the President of the United States. Let's have a listen.
We talk to these folks because they potentially have the best answers, so I know who's asked to kick.
So, who's asked to kick? That's the president's response to this. The only thing more reactionary than that is this Time magazine article that Ryan found out that lists the dirty dozen people who we should blame for the oil spill.
Sure,
Why don't we talk about getting this thing capped first? But no, they're talking about who to blame. So, Ryan, take us through this.
sure. Time Magazine came out last week with the Dirty Dozen, the top 12 people most responsible for the oil spill. Rightfully so, they put the BP oil execs as the top, three and four, and then of course they have to blame Bush and Cheney as well, so they hit five and six,
So, so,
and
so number five is
Cheney,
former Vice President Dick Cheney. Number six
correct,
is
former President George W. Bush.
aha. Now, can you explain this one to me? Because I'm
Oh well,
interested.
it all boils down to Bush derangement syndrome. They still have to blame Bush for everything, and Cheney's the smarter of the two, so he has to go in front of Bush because Bush is too dumb to know any better. And what I found most interesting about the list is it names as number seven most responsible is the American driver, and of course it's our fault for driving these gas guzzling vehicles and being so reliant on such a cheap and abundant resource within our country.
So the Time magazine article is faulting probably a supermajority of its own readership for causing the problem to begin with.
Right. And one thing I'd like to point out is it never in the list pointed any blame to any environmental activist or group who could arguably have some culpability in this, since the spill is a mile underground or under the ocean. We have to go a mile underneath the ocean and very far from shore in order to drill, in order to comply with all the onerous regulation. And we can't, drill on land. We can't drill in ANWR. We can't drill in some of the basins in Montana.
Right.
We can't use oil shale.
And that was a doing of the Clinton administration, which basically created an incentive for a requirement almost for firms to go further out into these deeper waters and drill. And I think we're seeing the consequence of that when you have to have unmanned vehicles trying to cap this well. I mean, just imagine a mile with all the pressure swimming to a bottom of a swimming pool
Yeah.
going
You
over
could barely get a
5,000 feet down.
submarine down there. You can't get a human being a mile underneath the ocean, and it's ridiculous. I mean, we should be drilling
But
in a couple.
Ryan, you are
Yes,
at fault for the spill, and so am I.
yes, of course. In my Dodge Ram truck.
Unbelievable. Even people who drive Priuses are at fault. They're drivers, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Let's move on here to a New York Times story that you said you got a kick out of, and the byline is "For Forgetful, Cash helps the medicine go down." Why don't you explain this one to us?
Yeah, absolutely. So, reading the article, we're giving money now to people who are already getting subsidized health care through Medicaid or Medicare. We're giving them money to remember to take their pills. And
Not okay. So not for the medicine. This is for them to take.
correct, they're already getting the medicine subsidized through whatever governmental program they're enrolled in. And some of them unfortunately forget, or for whatever reason don't take their medication. So now we're in places, I think the story was in Philadelphia, where we're giving money to people in order to remember to take their pills.
Now I know these programs are controversial. Many conservatives oppose them based upon the fact that people should do these things and taxpayers shouldn't be subsidizing activities that should be done otherwise. But cities such as New York City, Mayor Michael Bloomberg, not exactly a huge conservative, but neither is
Right,
he a liberal,
right,
instituted a program that rewarded kids for getting good grades on exams.
right.
But from a media point of view, where's your beef with this New York Times piece?
Yeah, the beef is really in a 1,500 word article. They didn't have a single person on there who criticized the program, who thought maybe it would reinforce some bad behavior, that culturally it sets a bad example for the rest of society. That was my beef with the article. I mean, it's a legit story to look at. It's good that obviously we're talking about it now.
So it didn't
But I
have
mean,
any experts to talk about the
no,
program.
it was all fluff and
But do
oh
you
look
really
how.
need an expert to talk about a criticism for taxpayer funding for people to take pills?
Perhaps not. We're a couple of nobodies basically, and we can attest that it's a really bad idea. But it would have been nice for the Times to at least put some effort into having a contrarian point of view.
Well, I don't know if we're nobodies, but we're probably nobodies in the view of the New York Times.
Yeah, exactly.
Our last topic today, Ryan, is one that you spoke to last week, which is the Helen Thomas stepping down in light of her comments about Israel. It seems as if, as people discussed it post-mortem, that this was nothing new. It was not exactly a revelation to the press corps.
Right. Well, you remember how last week I said that the media doesn't conspire to be biased against Israel, that it's really a problem of groupthink. And here's just another example. Eleanor Clift, she wrote a piece for Newsweek a few days ago, and just I'll read you through a couple sentences so you get an idea of some of the verbiage that's used. Quote, she was talking about the settlers, and if she said that they should go back to Brooklyn, where many of them are from, she probably wouldn't have made the news. Well, a problem with that thinking is she wasn't talking about the settlers. She was talking about, Israelis that had been there for many years, for many generations, and that had immigrated there from the Holocaust, who barely survived the Holocaust. And her comments were unbelievably insensitive to, the people that had been there for many years, and to the Jews that rightfully have just as much claim to the land as the Palestinians.
Now, in Eleanor Clift's piece, did you interpret it as defending Helen Thomas, or as much as trying to put her comments into some sort of a liberal justification context?
Probably both. I mean, it was standing up for a fellow woman in the press who she probably felt was demeaned, and Helen Thomas had a fairly long and successful track record, and for that she should be applauded for. But her comments were just so unbelievably over the line, and just some of the verbiage that Eleanor used in her piece, just it comes across that hey, what she said wasn't really that bad, and that's not true at all.
Very interesting. Well, anyway, that will do it for this edition of Press Please. I'm Mike Collins, and joining us again, Ryan Williams. Ryan, always a pleasure.
Thank you.